In 1815, one man used carrier pigeons to make millions in a single day. But that was just the beginning. Behind the world's greatest fortunes lie secrets so dark, so calculated, that these families spent centuries keeping them hidden. Until now. What you're about to discover will change how you see wealth forever. Because the richest families in history didn't just get lucky. They played a game most people didn't even know existed. And some of their moves were so ruthless, so brilliant, that their descendants are still profiting today. I'm talking about dynasties worth trillions. Families who've survived revolutions, world wars, and economic collapses. And the question is, how did they do it? What secrets did they guard so carefully? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what separates old money from everyone else. Let's start with the family that perfected the art of information warfare, the Rothschilds. In the early 1800s, 5 brothers spread across Europe's financial capitals: London, Paris, Vienna, Frankfurt, Naples. This wasn't random. It was strategic positioning. While everyone else relied on slow mail systems, the Rothschilds built their own private courier network. Faster horses, coded messages. And yes, carrier pigeons. Here's where it gets insane. June 18, 1815. The Battle of Waterloo. Napoleon versus the British. The outcome would determine the future of Europe and the value of British government bonds. Nathan Rothschild, stationed in London, had agents at the battlefield. His courier reached him a full day before the British government received official news. Think about that. He knew Napoleon lost before anyone else in London. So what did he do? He started selling British bonds, heavily. Other traders panicked, thinking he had insider information that Britain lost. Bond prices crashed. And that's when Nathan bought everything back at rock-bottom prices. When the official news arrived that Britain won, bond prices soared. The profit? Equivalent to billions in today's money. From one trade, based on information advantage. But here's the real secret. That wasn't a one-time trick. The Rothschilds turned information into a system. They financed governments, funded wars, and always knew what was happening before everyone else. By the mid-1800s, they were lending to kings and emperors. They didn't just have wealth. They had power that made monarchs nervous. Now let's rewind a few centuries. Florence, Italy. The 1400s. The Medici family. You might know them for art and Renaissance culture. But that's the sanitized version. The real story? They were bankers who turned money into political control. Giovanni de' Medici started the banking empire, but his grandson Lorenzo took it to another level. The Medici didn't just lend money. They owned the Pope's finances. Literally, they were the Vatican's bankers, which gave them influence over the Catholic Church. And in Renaissance Europe, that meant influence over everything. They installed family members as popes. They married into royal families. They controlled Florence without ever officially ruling it. But power attracts enemies. In 1478, the Pazzi family tried to assassinate Lorenzo during Easter Mass. They killed his brother Giuliano. Lorenzo survived with stab wounds. His response? Brutal. He hunted down every conspirator. Public executions. Confiscated wealth. The message was clear. You don't come for the Medici and live. Here's what most people miss. The Medici pioneered double-entry bookkeeping. Sounds boring, right? Wrong. This accounting system let them track money across multiple countries and currencies. It gave them financial clarity no one else had. They could see profits and losses in real time. This innovation became the foundation of modern banking, and it made them untouchable for generations. Fast forward to America, the DuPont family. You might recognize the name from chemicals or Teflon. But the origin story? Gunpowder. Eleuther, Irene DuPont fled France during the Revolution and started a gunpowder mill in Delaware in 1802. perfect timing. America needed explosives for expansion and war. The DuPonts supplied gunpowder for the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, and the Civil War, both sides of the Civil War. Let that sink in. They profited regardless of who won. By the early 1900s, they controlled 90% of America's gunpowder production. Then they pivoted to chemicals, nylon, lycra, Teflon, each innovation worth billions. But here's where it gets dark. The family became so wealthy and isolated that dysfunction festered. In 1996, John DuPont, heir to the fortune, shot and killed Olympic wrestler Dave Schultz on his estate. The trial revealed paranoia, mental illness, and the toxic effects of extreme wealth and isolation. John was convicted but declared mentally ill. He died in prison in 2010. The DuPonts show what happens when wealth concentrates for too long. The fortune remains, estimated at over $14 billion today, but the human cost? Incalculable. And they're not alone in hiding scandals behind mansion walls. Let's talk about the families you don't hear about. The German dynasties, the Quants, the Oetkers, the von Finks. Combined wealth? Over $100 billion. Their secret? Nazi collaboration. During World War II, these families ran factories using forced labor from concentration camps. Thousands died making products that enriched these dynasties. After the war, they stayed quiet, paid reparations when forced to, but they never truly faced consequences. Today, the Quant family owns nearly half of BMW. The Oetkers control a food and hotel empire. The von Finks run banks and breweries. They've spent decades sanitizing their histories, funding museums and charities to rebrand their names. This is the pattern. Wealthy families don't just accumulate money. They control narratives. They erase uncomfortable truths. They make sure history remembers them as philanthropists, not profiteers. But there's one family that makes all of these look small. The House of Saud, the royal family of Saudi Arabia. Estimated wealth? $1.4 trillion. Not billion, trillion. They own Saudi Aramco, the world's most valuable company, worth over $2 trillion. One family controls the oil that powers the global economy. How did they get here? In 1932, Ibn Saud unified the Arabian Peninsula and founded Saudi Arabia. Oil was discovered in 1938. American companies developed the fields, but the Sauds kept ownership. As oil prices rose through the 20th century, so did their wealth. Today, there are over 15,000 members of the royal family, and the senior princes control everything. Here's the secret. They don't just own oil, they own the system. The Saudi government and the royal family are the same thing. There's no separation. Oil revenue flows directly into royal accounts. They don't pay income tax. They don't disclose finances. And because the world needs their oil, no one can touch them. So what's the pattern? What do all these families have in common? 3 things. First, they positioned themselves at the center of essential systems. Banking, gunpowder, oil, chemicals, things society can't function without. Second, they turned information and timing into weapons. The Rothschilds with Waterloo, the Medici with papal finances, the Sauds with oil monopolies. Third, they controlled narratives. They buried scandals, rewrote histories, and made sure their names stayed powerful. And here's the uncomfortable truth. These families aren't going anywhere. The Rothschilds still run banks. The Medici financial innovations built modern capitalism. The DuPonts still profit from chemicals. The German dynasties still own major corporations. The House of Saud still controls oil. Wealth at this level doesn't disappear. It compounds. It hides. It adapts. So what does this mean for you? Understanding how old money operates gives you a blueprint. Information advantage. strategic positioning, long-term thinking, narrative control. These aren't just historical curiosities. They're principles that still work today. If you found this valuable, subscribe, because we're just getting started uncovering the financial mysteries that shaped our world.